Well, hello there, fellow geeks and geekettes, and welcome to yet another review video. So I've decided to restart making video reviews on comic books. But I stated, and I have stated it many times in my videos, that I do not read modern comics for obvious reasons. And that is the brutal, unimaginable decline of quality because the creators and the publishers have been focusing on unimportant things in comics, such as inclusion, representation, diversity, and following various different agendas like feminism and so on and so forth. And the SJWs, or social justice warriors, to use an umbrella term for all the mentally ill people that are working in the comic book industry these days, are brutally and hysterically afraid and frightened of women and people of color because they wouldn't dare making the characters interesting and intriguing. If you want to make a character interesting and intriguing, you need to make the character with a lot of flaws that the character needs to overcome. Or you just need to make the character pure badass, but still, there needs to be something about the character that will make the character like, meh. And if you make a perfect character like Mary Sue or some sort of Uncle Somebody, it's just transparent and it's boring and it's clear that you're following agendas and not writing an actual good story. So let me tell you what this new series, this renewed series of comic book reviews will be about. It'll be about the 90s comics. A lot of people are laughing at the 90s, but I consider the 90s to be the golden age of comic books, because the best, well, works of art as far as the comic book medium were written and drawn in the 90s, because people were not afraid of having fun, and that's the most important aspect of comic books. Now, we are not talking about Tolkien, we are not talking about, alright, let's mention Charles Dickens, we are not talking about Beowulf, we are not talking about Gilgamesh, we're not talking about works of art that should be for weeks and weeks and weeks studied, and months and years studied into depth. We are talking about fun comics that should be enjoyed just for a simple escapism. And Lobo is my favorite comic book character of all time. Lobo is really my favorite comic in general, just because it's pure fun, pure action, and the writers, Keith Giffen and Alan Grant, and the artist of this particular miniseries, Lobo, Lobo's back, they were not afraid of writing a fun comic book about a ridiculously badass and masculine Tarnian, which is like an alien bounty hunter, who just likes to drink all the time, smoke cigars, and bone ladies. Because he was the way he was. He was a kind of a parody at the time on heavy metal bikers, overly masculine characters from the 80s. He was a parody on that. But people loved it so much that he became a sensation overnight when Alan Grant and Keith Giffen wrote him that way. And the artwork of Simon Bisley only helped it very much. Just if you look at the first couple of pages, you see why I'm talking like this. I'll just show you the artwork first. So you've got Lobo wandering through city, like streets of an alien city, with his dog, alien dog, and his army of space killer penguins, and he's looking for a job. And there's like this ATM machine that should show you how much credits or money you've got on your account. And he encounters a person of color who, stands in his way, and so he rips his arm off, or arms, both of them, because Lobo is not to be fucked around. Lobo doesn't wait for anybody or anything. Lobo doesn't take shit from anybody. And let me just read out the words, the script now for a little bit. So Lobo says, "You call this a paycheck? Hell, this pittance won't keep me in booze and babes for more than a week. 10 days tops." And then he goes to the ATM machine. "All the time I wasted with real dogs and Legion has really loused up my cash flow. Daddy big bucks I ain't. Hey dweeb, what you doing in there? Making love to it? I can't wait all fragging day." Think I'm talking to myself here, you little weasel. You see the sign? You see what it says? 2 fragging transactions. 2, get it? And he slams his head into a wall. By the way, look at the awesome artwork of Simon Bisley, my favorite artist of all time. And the person of color says, "But," and Lobo says, "Don't give me that bull. I counted. You kept me waiting while you completed 3. And so he achieves his goal, and then he goes on and let himself be hired. And now this panel. I mean, look at Lobo sitting at a bar with his dog next to him, and Lobo being all shrouded in shadows. Now, this looks better than fucking Batman being drawn these days. Look at him. And he says, "Broke already. Fetal's jizz I must have miscalculated somewhere along the line, and me without so much as a buzz on. I'd have had more fun with an unnecessary surgical operation." So he is an alcoholic, and he is not ashamed of it. So he is a very, very, very flawed character. Like, you would have to go very far to find a character that flawed, even in the 90s. But at the same time, you would have to go very far to find a character who would be that badass. Not even Wolverine, not even Cable from the 90s, not even Batman were that badass as Lobo was in the 90s. And here he is on an errand, being hired to apprehend somebody. And he's accompanied by, once again, his dog, an army of space battle penguins, and a smoking gorilla. And they're just chilling in a room with a lot of booze. Even the dog is drunk, reading comics, smoking cigars, drinking beers. There's a sex doll right there. So they're just having fun. And look at the little penguin, he's got a teddy bear. What I love about Simon Bisley is he draws magnificently. He draws the most badass things you could possibly imagine. But at the same time, here and there, he adds something extremely cute that you just can't almost believe there is. And I love his depictions of space bars with all the different aliens, because each and every time he draws in something from pop culture of the 80s and the 90s that you instantly recognize. In this case, is the Predator. Look at that. It's clearly the Predator from, well, the Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger and then with Danny Glover. So, look at that. Here's an advert for Batman Returns. I mean, don't try to tell me that the 90s weren't the golden age of comic books. They were just fun. You just had fun. Look at the final page. I mean, spoilers. He meets the villain of the story, the man who, he should apprehend, another killer. Look at that. Look at the musculature. I mean, Simon Bisley is very well known for drawing his characters, well, overly masculine or overly feminine. There is a lot of hyperbole. There's a lot of exaggeration as far as the physique, the bodies go. but it fits. It's his style, and I love it. And it's all drawn by hand. It's all colored in by hand. It's all lettered by hand. None of this computer bullshit that the lazy artists do now. Look at that. It's his space car. He usually has a space bike, but here Simon Bisley decided to make fun of Batmobile. It's clear that this has been inspired by Batmobile. So, I mean, Lobo's back. I think it was 4-issue miniseries. I think it's the best thing about Lobo that has ever been written and drawn, and I do very much recommend it. It has also been collected in a trade paperback, I believe, which I also have, but I just wanted to show you this magnificent issue from the 90s, the first issue, which shall go straight back into the bag, so it's nicely protected. Not for generations to come, because who would want to bring a child into this crazy world, right? But that's why I love the 90s comics, because the creators were not afraid of having fun, of having crazy ideas, of writing them down, and in the case of the artists, of drawing them down, those crazy action-packed comic books that were supposed to entertain people, mostly men, yes, but if you were a woman and liked comics, why not? Who cares? Nobody cared. Nobody told you that you can't read comics because this or that. Nobody told you that you should be afraid of women. Nobody told you that if you want to write a black character, you should be black. Nobody told you that if you want to write a female character, you have to be female. You just have to, had to be talented. And that's why comic books were so popular for such a long time. But the moment the SJWs got their fucking filthy hands on comics, as well as on everything else, it collapsed. It crushed. And that's why this magnificent publisher, DC Comics, is going to be no more very soon, because they are right now, as of this moment, the news is all over the internet. They are selling their characters already. First they fired like almost all their employees and artists and higher-ups and writers, and now they are selling the characters. DC Comics is fucking dead because they have allowed mentally ill people to dictate what they should do and how they should write and how they should run their business. So that's why I do recommend that you get as many great comics as possible, because I doubt there are going to be many reprints of these comics in the future when DC Comics finally dies and the publishing rights would go to whoever, I don't know. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think, if you read Lobo or not, if it's one of your favorite characters or not, if you agree with me or if your opinion differs in any way. I will be only glad to read your comments, and I do respond to each and every comment because I do love interacting with fellow comic book aficionados. And of course, because YouTube is not very fond of free speech oriented YouTubers such as I am, please help me, fight the algorithm and like this video if you liked it, or dislike this video if you didn't like it, and subscribe to this unimportant channel of an unimportant geek talking about unimportant things if you haven't done so already, and hit that notification bell, because there are going to be many more reviews and recommendations of good old 90s comics to come. That'll be all from me. See you soon, and bye.